Ooh, maybe this Billy December thing wasn't such a great idea. Jamie,
Yeah.
let's go watch Fear City. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Good Times, Great Movies. We're an 80s movie podcast, and every other week we watch a movie from the 80s and then we talk about it.
That's what we do.
My name's Doug McCambridge. I'm one of you two hosts, and with me, topless as always,
Hey.
is Jamie Lorello. Finally, a movie where that's appropriate.
Just got my bean bags hanging out. Couldn't wait for it. That's all.
My beanbags.
I don't know. I was trying to think of other clever names for bubbies.
Okay.
Bean bags, flapjacks.
That's all you got.
Breasts?
That's as far
That's
as you...
not really a
Wait,
fun one. I'll think of more.
specs? Specs like glasses?
No,
What?
I didn't say. I said breasts
Oh, okay.
or specs.
Okay. Well, anyway, we are here today to talk to you about a movie that's a movie. Oh, first, wait, hold on.
Hey, wait! Don't forget.
First, I need to thank some new patrons.
Oh, here we go, patrons. Here's
Because
your
it's been a
thank yous.
while. There's been a drought of, first of all, new patrons. So step it up, people. But also us announcing patrons. We have 3 new ones. We have patron Shelly, who honestly, it's been so long. We may have thanked you before, but if we didn't thank you before,
Here's your thank you.
we thank you now. And if we thanked you before, it's like a double thank you. We really appreciate you being a patron.
Mm-hmm.
The other patron is someone named Endless Mike, and not
Ooh.
the mic like the name. Mike
Like
a
microphone, M-I-C.
Yep. Unless your name is microphone, then it's just like that. And our most recent patron is the wonderful Josh Hornbeck, who also has a podcast called Criterion Channel Surfing, where he goes through, and I don't know if it's monthly actually. He talks about new titles that are on the Criterion Channel. So if you're a Criterion Channel subscriber, if you do that subscription service, check it out. And there's a possibility that in February I might be on to talk about romantic films.
Oh.
Yes. So if you want to hear me try not to make jokes about classic romantic films, maybe check out that podcast.
Tune in.
And
All right.
by maybe, I mean definitely. So
All right.
thank you to the new patrons. Thank you to the old patrons. Any patrons listening to this have probably already heard us talk about Gary Coleman and Mr. T.
Yeah, they did. And it's
In
not
a
a movie.
Christmas tree.
It's a special.
Right.
And I don't know how special it is.
It's barely a special.
Yeah.
It's a thing that was made by a bunch of people who seem not to have want to be making that thing.
Mr. T's in sweatpants. That's all you got to know. And he's telling the story of Jesus. So
For the majority, like the vast majority of
Yeah.
it, he's just wearing sweatpants.
yeah, 'tis the season for coziness.
If you want to see Mr. T go from a full Santa suit,
Oh,
like
yeah.
top to bottom Santa suit,
And a beard with a full, blocking
With a beard.
his ability to speak clearly.
it covers his mouth and it makes it really tough to understand what he's saying, to sweats, the most comfy sweats, and then a suit like Mr.
Classy
T in,
suit, too.
in like a beigeish golden almost suit.
Beigeish golden. Nice.
If the two things that aren't close on the color spectrum. I assume that like sparkly and lack of color are at the opposite ends. But if you want to hear us talk about that, you got to go to patreon.com/goodtimesgreatmovies. Check it out. And we'll also be talking about A Garfield Christmas on
Oh.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. But now we're not. Now we're not talking about either one of those Christmas joys. But we are this is our month. So we just, if you're keeping up seasonally with our
If you're
work,
keeping track.
we, our November ended with a Sly Skiving, which is always this very special time of year at Good Times, Great Movies.
Very.
And as it's been proven year to year, it's always been very enjoyable.
Year to year. We have not hit a dud yet.
No, not yet.
I mean, it's only been 3, but still, that's
still,
pretty good.
yeah.
I can't
Yeah,
say the same for our Melanie Griffith.
No, or Melanie Griffith's got kind of a weak track record, and Billy D. Now, Billy D. Williams was in our last, our Sly Skiving. He kind of made a little premature, well, it wasn't premature. He was supposed to be in that movie, but what I'm getting at is December is our Billy December. So
Right,
we have
yes.
chosen Billy D. Williams, 80s
He was in
movies.
Nighthawks, just in case.
Oh,
Perhaps
for
you
those
forgot
that
the name of that movie, listener or Jamie. Not sure, but that movie was Nighthawks that we just talked about.
And it was wonderful. It was really fun.
It was great.
Billy D. Williams, Sly Stallone. We had fun talking about it. We both enjoyed watching it, and now we're here. And we're in what we like to call Fear City.
Fierce.
This is 19. What year is this?
This is 84.
84.
Same year that Mr. T and Webster were making a TV special. There was a lot happening that year. Very little of it appears to be good.
No. Yes. She agrees.
So this movie, it's called Fear City, as you said,
right.
1984, directed by Abel Ferrara, who is, I don't want to say quite possibly the most hit and miss director, because when he hits,
It's a
it's
hit.
great.
Gotcha.
I am not trying to spoil any of either of our recommendations, but if people have not seen Ms. 45, it's so great. It's a wonderful like rape revenge movie that is so brutal and amazing. Everyone should see it. And if people have not seen the movie Bad Lieutenant, the Harvey Keitel one, not the Nick Cage one.
Good for clarifying.
His great movies are great, and his bad movies are so bad.
This falls there.
This was rough to get through.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to wait till the end to talk about our feelings, but
Well, I think they're going to be exposed throughout because it's that kind of.
Yeah.
I just don't think.
I've never had the urge to check my phone so badly when watching a movie for this podcast as I did in like the last third of this movie. I would just kind of like come to and be like, oh, this is still going.
What's happening here?
So
yeah.
my memory might get spotty here to the
Hey,
to the
that's
end.
okay. Well, I don't want to say not a lot happens because we do follow the murder. We do start by just cutting bitches and then we move on to murdering them. And we do get, like we've said, a lot of nudity. We do get some sexy dance. Well, I have a problem with calling, and I don't mean any offense to her, but the dancing that Melanie Griffith does, I wouldn't call it sexy.
No.
I'm not sure
No, I don't.
what
I don't know what she's doing.
Yeah, there's a
I
weird...
don't know what she's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, and the closest thing we've had so far in this podcast is Flashdance, which again is not the same
No.
because that seemed to be performance art with sets and nobody took their clothes off.
Yeah, right.
In this, she's just sort of flopping around on the ground.
Yeah.
For the most part, she spends a lot of time on the ground, which
She
I don't
does.
know. There's not a whole lot of poles involved. and
No,
stuff
there's
like-
not poles for her. She does in the very beginning when for her first dance. I thought, because you're right, and like I think right in the opening, like the credits roll, and what is that lovely font they use? You must know. What's the font they
I don't
use
know.
for
but
the
it's-
credits?
It's trashy and it looks so cheesy. It's so terrible.
It's terrible. But they're in Topless City, a booty shaken,
That's so
completely
weird that you would
topless.
say that. I was
Yeah.
watching this going, I think I know that font. I think I used to know the name of that
I
font.
know.
I don't anymore, but I swear I used to know what it was.
I'm sure it's something like, I don't know. It's terrible though.
It's
And
probably right now. I bet you could go onto a website and just type in Fear City font, and it's probably called.
that's
Fear
probably
City.
what it's called. That would be titular. Anyway, we get a lot of nudity to start, but Melanie Griffith is not naked in the beginning. She's in the long sequence dress, and she's doing this weird like gyrating hip motion on stage. Like again, it's not sexy. You wonder, like, does someone have a gun to her head and is making her do that? But no, she's a full-on employee of the strip club as well. And
She looks awkward and weird, and like you said, like a long sequined blue. It's like a Jessica Rabbit type
Yes.
long blue dress almost, and it's so bizarre that this is how she comes out for the striptease. Because never with these strippers, we don't see anyone wearing clothing.
No.
Nobody comes out.
And we're
in
instantly
clothing.
topless. Even when we're hospitalized, we're topless. Because if you notice
Oh God, I forgot about that.
when the one friend, we'll get there, but her friend is hospitalized because she's a victim, and when they do when they try to revive her and do the compressions on her
Oh, the
chest.
defibrillation?
Yes. She's just they tear right open that hospital gown, and it's just boobies hanging out.
It's weird to say, like, what was it? Was it like, all right, well, we want to make this hospital scene seem as realistic as possible, and I'm sure this is what happens, or is it like, you know what, we got Ray Don Chong for
Yeah,
10 more minutes
we
here,
got more.
so let's
Yeah.
take those clothes off. You
Yeah.
signed the waiver. You're naked as much as we want
We're
you to
showing it. We're showing all those nipples just every time we can.
be. Every time this movie is so gross, and again, like, I have no issue with nudity in movies. Like, I really don't, but it seemed so aggressive. Like, it just seemed like, was this movie made by 14-year-old boys or other 14-year-old boys?
I agree.
Because that's the only way it makes sense.
You didn't see it, I gather, then when you were 14. Because
No,
I'm sure you would have been like, boy, do I remember this
Oh.
titty romp.
Yep. Like, Jamie, let's watch this. I love it. It's a good movie, I think. I'm not sure.
But no.
No, I've never seen this at all.
Okay.
No.
Well.
Now, I was because again, my exposure, no pun intended, to Melanie Griffith was really limited to like the two movies we've seen on this podcast.
well, those are both better of her works.
Right. And like I said, I had seen Cherry 2000 100 times. I did not expect this. I was like, oh, she's in this movie. There's a lot of strippers. All right, I guess she's a stripper, but oh my God, she's naked within like a minute.
Right. Well, exactly. At first you think,
Yeah.
no. I thought, no, she's not. And then, no,
Right.
yes, she is.
Mhm.
And then she is also, she's also a lesbian in it, which isn't a big deal, but it just happens. But then she's not because she's really in love with the bad guy, of course. Or not, I guess he's not the
yeah.
bad guy, but
Listen,
he is a
Jamie,
bad
it's
guy.
the 80s. Lesbians aren't really lesbians. They just haven't found the right Tom Berenger yet. You
Yeah.
just have to find that right permed
Oh.
hair guy,
Oh.
and everything will fall in
he's so
place.
sleazy looking. Ugh. No, you're right though. I did think that. I did when there's scenes. So it's what's her name again? I call her the girl from Commando. What's that girl's name?
Ray Don Chong. But you can call her the girl from Commando,
Okay.
definitely.
They have a little like love interest, and I thought, well, that's very progressive for 1984.
Yeah, I was totally down with this.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, if this is the movie, like she left Tom Berenger for a lady and a lady of color to boot. I was
that's
like,
correct.
okay, wow, for 1984, I can't even believe this is happening.
Yeah.
Of course, she has to be murdered, and then Melanie Griffith has to run into the waiting arms of possibly abusive boyfriend Tom Berenger.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
I
I don't want to
mean-
jump to those conclusions. If anything, he seems neglectful.
Yeah, a bit selfish.
He buys her the chintziest bracelet in this movie, and she's like, how come you never did this when we were together? I'm like, he never bought you anything in the... I don't know how long you were together, but yeah, a little spinny.
Yeah, it was a bracelet. I didn't know what it was.
I don't know. Let's call it a fidget spinner bracelet.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was like a fidgety spin thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what. Anyway.
So here's the easiest way to summarize this movie, and then we can dive in. So Tom Berenger and his friend, I totally want to call this guy JFK Jr.
So do I. Oh my god, that's so funny. I was like, JFK look alike.
The moment he showed up,
so
I was like, oh, JFK Jr.'s in this movie. This is great. So he owns, oh man, I almost said they own women. They own a talent agency where they farm out women basically to strip clubs.
Yes.
And then there is a killer who is picking off their women specifically, which again makes no sense in the movie.
Well, he's not, again, he's not a killer in the beginning, because the first 2 women he gets, he doesn't kill them. But do they end up dying of their injuries?
Well,
because the first woman, he just cuts her hands really bad. With
really
the scissors.
That was one reveal where I was like, oh, that is shocking.
So
that was the one moment in this movie where I went, oh, I'm kind of into what my
I was like, oh my god, what kind of, so the first murder, or the first act of violence against one of these women happened when, in a cutaway, Melanie Griffith is doing her first naked dance, right?
This cut scene between a woman being brutally, I assumed, murdered, and a topless Melanie Griffith dancing around is
disturbing.
Ludicrous.
Yeah,
it is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. So she's topless dancing, and this woman is on the floor getting stabbed from behind. And not a scene or 2 later, because we find out Melanie Griffith has a lover, and that Berenger used to date Melanie Griffith. Then
I really enjoyed, and I don't want to keep going back to the lesbian part of this movie, but I really enjoyed it because Tom Berenger goes to his strip club, and we find out that he's looking for money from this sleazy, gross dude who owns this thing.
Right.
Possibly the worst character in this entire movie.
Just yells all the time.
He goes back to her dressing room or I guess the girls' dressing room. I'm sure they all share the same one.
Sure.
To be like, all right, well, maybe I can make up with her again. And he looks in and he sees her like passionately kissing Rae Dawn Chong, and he's like, well,
guess not.
Moved on with her life. And I was like, I am okay with everything I'm seeing right now. Like, this is good. He seems like a respectable guy, and she's moved on, and she's in a lesbian relationship. And I was like, okay, I really want to see where this movie's going. And it doesn't take long before I'm like, this is the dumbest thing.
Yeah, you do wonder, like, oh, okay, so she's moved on, and he's in a stuck place, but no. Next murder is Honey Powers. What a great name she has, by the way. Honey Powers got messed up pretty bad, and she got cut with scissors. Her hands got cut. They go to visit her in the hospital, and she's all upset, and she's reliving what happened to her. Yes. And literally, he had a giant pair of scissors and was just cutting her with the giant pair of scissors, and she's like, and he cut my hands! And then, like you said, the big reveal is like 3 of her fingers are missing.
Because she's in bed. She's in the hospital bed, and she's like, he was behind me. And we see this horrible scene of him like on top of her from behind. And she's like, and he kept cutting me, and he was cutting me, and he was cutting me. And I'm like, oh no, where was he cutting her?
What is the cut?
When she holds up her bandaged hands and fingers are missing, and then they show a cutaway shot of him with these giant scissors. Like
stupid, like animatedly large, yeah. Animatedly, yeah.
Animatedly large, like Carrot Top would be using these scissors in as a prop. They looked so ridiculous, and I can't even imagine the type of scissors that would cut through bone that easily.
I had a hard time.
It cuts through her hands like they're just rubber gloves.
I had a hard time taking this killer seriously when I saw this weapon. I was like,
did you? Did you really? What was it? Was it just everything about him? Because for me, anytime we cut to him, I was like, this is
now,
so dumb.
I will say this. Some things that could have made this movie better, but I understand why. First of all, if there was a different, more dynamic, I guess, like Tom Berenger is just the worst. He's just super creepy, and it didn't work. And
Yeah.
But if this killer guy, who's supposed to be this Taekwondo expert and knows all this karate and stuff, if he was, say, Jean-Claude Van Damme, I might have been a little more into this movie. But I have to tell you, Jean-Claude Van Damme is no killer like this guy. He would have never signed up for a role like this.
So, but I would love that too, because all the women would be talking to the cops going, I'm not really sure what accent that was. He could have possibly Eastern European. I'm not, maybe French. I don't know.
True.
I was thinking about Jean-Claude Van Damme in this movie too, because I was like, he should be in this movie instead of this guy, because nothing. Jamie, did you read anything about this movie?
Mm-mm.
Because I was flashback to, do you remember the movie Hell Night?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember the thing you said about the monsters in the movie? Like, nobody knows who they were or where they came from. The guy who played the killer in this movie is not credited in the movie. On IMDb, there's no record of who this actor was.
Is he like a real life
anything.
like killer? Maybe
Don't
is he
know.
a real life?
I don't
creep?
know. Yeah, there's nothing. You can't.
Well, it's not like he has a lot of lines.
No, he doesn't do anything. He barely does karate.
I like when he does karate in front of the ladies when he's got the knife in front of them and he's like, yeah. Like he does it to Melanie Griffith for a minute. He does all these moves before he cuts her.
When he does karate in front of Ray Don Chong, I'm like, who is this for?
Yeah, what are you doing? And he cuts her face. Poor
She
thing.
can't even see you. There's so much blood in her eyes right now. Can't
Ow!
see.
Cuts her right in the forehead.
Oh
so
my
the blood
God.
just drips down. I like the doctor who doesn't look at all like a doctor. The actor who plays the doctor and who's like, yeah, well, he knows exactly where he must have some background in anatomy because he knows. And then he tells him, well, if you need anything else, you know where to find me.
Right? Yes. Did you notice the other doctor later that was like, you know what? All we can really do right now is just pray.
Doctors.
It's like, what? You're not a doctor. That's not something doctors say.
The doctors have the worst bedside manner. When they lose the Ray Don Chong, when they're trying to revive her and they lose her, the doctor goes, oh, forget it.
Oh, forget it. Forget it. We're done here. Sucks.
She's just a silly stripper. Yeah.
What's that random lady doing in the room? Should she be here? Probably not. Someone probably should have escorted her out of the room.
Oh, forget it. I'm sick of saving people today.
Also, what happened to anyone in this movie? Anyone, his partner, whoever that guy is.
Oh, yeah.
Last we seen
I thought
in
it
the
was a
hospital,
brother, but it's not. It's a partner. It's just a friend.
The relationship they have makes me think that they're brothers.
Yeah.
When he's looking through a scrapbook that
Oh my
maybe
God.
he made. This stupid movie. All right.
There's a scene that, okay, well, we'll get there, I guess. Sorry, listeners, we are just throwing it all out at you. Just like they throw the titties right at us when you watch Fear City. It's just like, here we are.
So there's Tom Berenger and his partner. Who's the actor? Hold on. I got his name.
JFK Jr.?
Jack Scalia. He looks like JFK Jr. He did a lot of soap work, so I don't really know him from
Makes
anything.
sense.
So they own a talent agency. A talent agency, by the way, that looks like an old private detective office
Yes.
in 1940s
Yes.
movies.
Yes. And I
It's
like
so
it. They do field a lot of calls for their girls.
They have girls all in that office.
Yeah.
How about that old guy that's like helping them out?
Oh, that's
The
like
old guy
cleaning
that's,
the dry
like,
erase
booking
board for them.
appointments and cleaning stuff. And later he's like, you don't really have to pay me this week.
So what's he doing there then? The creepy
Don't
old
know.
guy.
I don't know.
How about the one dancer, the spicy Latina? Who,
I really liked her.
I do too. I do too.
I wanted her to be in this movie. When she's talking, I couldn't really understand what she was saying, but I'm like, all right, she's giving it back to this guy. This is kind of fun.
Yeah, it was nice.
Is she the one that's later killed in her apartment? And I thought it was a dream that Tom Berenger was having, but it turned out to be
it's her
real.
getting killed. Well, and she was the smartest one because she's going up the stairs and she's the only one that's kind of aware of her surroundings. And she realizes, oh no, somebody might be behind me. And somehow the killer got in her apartment because she scurries up to her apartment, thinks she's safe, and he gets her with a hook.
Makes no sense.
Oh, no.
Makes no sense. How did he get in her apartment? How did he know that she was a stripper? How did he know that she worked for these guys? Does he have a vendetta against
Yeah,
Tom
we don't know
Berenger?
why.
No.
We don't know.
All right. Anyway, so they're
No, but
sitting around
he is
this.
a creepy poet. Like, doesn't he write? Well, not really
His
poet,
poetry,
but he,
his poetry. He's writing poetry in a book that he labeled Fear City.
Titular
Wrote it
book.
possibly in blood. I'm not sure.
Not sure. Not sure.
Yeah, but the spicy Latina. So they're in this talent agency, and JFK Jr.'s on the phone with the guy, and he looks at the girl, and he's like, "Hey, why didn't you take a?" And everybody in this movie has Italian accents to beat the band. It is insane. It's wall to wall. And he's like, "Why didn't you take a UG string off at that club last night?" And she's got, a great response to him. So they get a call about Honey getting all messed up. Her fingers were cut off.
And now, mind you, this is Billy December. We are 40 minutes in, and we have not seen Billy
I
once.
had to check just to make sure I was watching a movie that had Billy D. Williams.
There was no even mention of somebody that could be Billy D. Williams.
No, because we're
you're
so
wondering.
into Tom Berenger. Like, this is a Tom Berenger vehicle. We go to his apartment, wherever he lives. We're with him now for a little bit. And now we're given his backstory.
The boxer, the killer boxer.
Also, was the crowd chanting Rocky, or was that what I was just hearing?
I think you were just hearing that.
Okay, all right.
He's got, we're given flashbacks where he was in the ring or boxing a guy, and he was like a machine, not like Rocky, more like the Russian.
He was like a Russian machine. Right?
He
was like a
didn't know
Dolph
when.
Lundgren.
Yeah, he didn't know when to stop, basically, because
Mm-hmm.
later when they do the terrible slow mo replay.
My favorite part of this movie is him yelling in slow motion, and it's just skipping because the frames are just slowed down. Like it's not smoothed out. It's like it's the choppiest slow motion
It's
ever.
terrible. It's terrible.
Oh.
But in slow motion, and even before that, we realized that the I was going to call him the umpire. What is he in the ring? The guy.
I'd
that's
call him
supposed
a
to-
referee.
Okay. Well, he never said, enough's enough and called off the fight, and supposedly accidentally, Maddie, I think is his character's name, right? Maddie killed him.
Every 10 years this happens. It just happens. And I like how you said the referee didn't stop the fight, because of course that's what Tom Berenger says.
Yeah.
And at one point his brother, partner, son of the president says to him, "You can't keep blaming him for that." Like, all right.
Oh man.
We're so far in this movie. A woman has had fingers cut off. We've seen so many boobs.
Yeah,
We've seen
so
more
much,
boobs.
so much.
Like, it's been insane. We've seen our top billed actress naked, and finally Billy D. Williams walks into this movie.
Well, we're in a strip club. We should note that when Billy D walks in, we're in a strip club, and all these
Folks,
little
just
clubs
assume, unless we say something like we're in a park and a woman's being violently murdered, just assume we're always in a strip club.
Right, and
'cause
there's
this movie takes
boobies
place in
everywhere.
a strip club. Yes.
everywhere. And the Berenger's always meeting with, there's like mob guys always involved in these strip clubs, and Berenger's got to get his money from them. So he's going to get his money from this one mob guy who's kind of somewhat, I guess, entertaining. The guy that's like,
That guy
you're
was
gonna
kinda
go,
fun.
you're gonna get the envelope. It's got the name Maddie written on it. You gotta look for the envelope
got
labeled
Maddie on
Maddie.
M-A-T-Y. You can read, right? Go, oh, everybody's having a big laugh.
Yes. And then all of a sudden they go, I thought it was a lady that walked in. Like, I thought that Kim Basinger walked in, because the mob guy goes, "Oh, Maron, look who just walked in."
Wait, did you think Kim Basinger was in
Not
this
Kim
movie too?
Basinger, sorry. Yeah, I thought. Sorry.
didn't like-
I meant to say Melanie Griffith. Why did I say Kim Basinger? I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, I thought that somebody, a lady walks in, because their reaction was like, "Oh, look who walked in."
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's not. It's even prettier than a lady. It's Billy D. Williams.
I'd argue he's the prettiest person in this movie.
He is.
I think Ray Don Chong's giving him a run for his money, but she gets her face cut up pretty bad.
He comes in, and I said this earlier, Billy D. Williams in this movie just has a ton of one-liners. He comes in and he says, "Keep the pussy off the bar. I didn't come in here to get jerked off. I'm not talking to you, WAP. Like, it's all just like...
It's pretty much, I think you read every line he
Yeah.
says in this scene because you're right. As we said earlier, and this is why you should all become patrons, because we talked about this movie for 20 minutes before we started
even
recording.
started, yeah.
He doesn't know what movie he's in. He really doesn't know. Like, he is in a separate movie. It's called Billy D. Williams' Cop Adventure, and he is in it, and he's having so much fun.
And he's so angry. He's angry at the others, and he means business every time
when
he
he
comes
walks
in.
off set, he doesn't know what's happening.
No.
He doesn't care what's happening. He's like,
What script?
Just
Yeah.
skipping pages in this script, being like, oh, now I'm in a shooting range? All right, I can't wait to crouch down uncomfortably and shoot a lot.
Yeah, he doesn't have any, he's not given any background information. He just knows when he goes in, he's angry, he's yelling. He is, I mean, literally because the other actors are so meh or topless, he is like, he lights up the screen. He just does. I'm going to just say it.
His turn at the end where he hates everybody in this entire movie, and at the end he goes, you think you're a hero? Maybe you are. I was like, what? I did not see
well,
that
that's what it
coming.
is. Even though I'm telling you he's the shining light of the movie, none of what he does or says makes any sense and relates at all
He
to
is
what's
a
happening.
useless piece of the... You did not need the police in this movie at all. Because, again, it's the Tom Berenger show. You don't need anything but him running around. And I'm not saying take Billy D out because he's the only thing, like, holding this movie together.
Yeah.
Like, when he would show up, I'd be like, oh, okay, all right, I'm still in a movie that I might possibly want to pay attention to.
But you don't. How about him? And they give him the weakest partner. Like, we just saw him in
Who
our
is that
previous
guy?
movie. Yeah, who is that guy? We don't know who he is, and he's just like, he's
always, like, sitting down on a chair that's about a foot lower
I think
than
he's
Billy
a
D's
short guy
chair.
to begin with. Yeah, it's awkward. Anyway, he comes in. Oh, I do even love when he says this. These are literally all of Billy D's lines from the scene. So Billy D gets very intense because he wants Berenger to cooperate. He looks at his partner. He goes, "Let's get out of this cesspool." Then he looks at his partner and he says, "You know what really burns me about Rossi? His arrogance." And he's so angry and
he
so
says
serious.
that, I was like, you were the most arrogant person in that last scene I just watched. What are you talking about?
It's just the way he, like...
Yes. So he's a cop. And he is trying to solve these crimes, solve the finger cutting crime. And he's like, well, this is one of your girls, Tom Berenger. So of course you and JFK Jr. know who did this.
Right.
And he's like, nope, we don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. So it's basically the two of them. It's Tom Berenger and it's Billy D trying to solve this. And one is part of the law and one is just Tom Berenger. So of course, Tom Berenger is going to win. We do see a shirtless Tom Berenger, and the guy's pretty ripped at this point in his career. Like, not that I feel like Tom Berenger's kind of schlubby and out of shape, but I feel like I know more of a major league Tom Berenger.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like the grizzled old veteran, and he's just been around for a while. So I don't like... It was interesting to see him young, but he didn't really look any different. He's
still, yeah.
And that perm didn't help. The leather jackets, the gold chains they would give him to wear did not. He shouldn't be in this movie. Like, he should not have been in this movie.
No, and he's not. If they wanted him to be Italian, that was the problem with the whole Italian cast. They did try to have a heavy influence of, like, that it was the mafia that they were working with, but it was like the light mafia. Do you know what I mean? Like, none of the actors were really, you know what I mean? They were, and it just...
But we needed that mob boss to say something like, even though you were Irish, your parents, they came to me and I said, all right, I'll take care of this kid. Like, they never want, like, we're supposed to assume he's Italian and I am not buying it.
Yeah. Yep. I like how, too, when JFK and his stripper wife are at the house, they just try to throw out random... He's like, pick up the gabagool, right? Like, they're just saying random, like,
when he
Italian
said that,
things.
I was like, did he say pick up the kids? It's like, do they have children together? Because that
No.
would be a weird thing.
No, I think they're just trying to say different, like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. And his wife, like, I have things to say about Ruby, but
Is Ruby her name? Did you know? Wait,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
all the
Ruby's her
people
name.
in the name of the movie, like what was Kim Basinger's name? No, I know it wasn't Kim Basinger. What was Melanie Griffith's name?
oh, I have no idea. I have no
But you
idea.
remember Ruby,
Sorry,
the wife?
I mean, I know Ruby and Honey. Of course I do, because they're not Melanie Griffith.
She was Loretta.
Melanie Griffith was Loretta. Oof.
I
no,
don't know
not
what
good.
JFK's name was. I don't know if he ever
Doesn't-
said it.
It doesn't matter.
But I know the
Doesn't
other guy
matter.
is Maddie because they'd be like, Maddie! And she said, Maddie, tell me you love me.
So, also in the strip club that Melanie Griffith dances in, does this strip club have stadium seating?
What
Did you
is
see
with the
that?
odd? Yes. So this one strip club that Melanie dances in, we also get to see one that Ray Dong-tong
Yeah,
dances
because
in.
they're
And
just
that
like,
one's a
oh,
lot like
you're in the Hispanic
yes,
district.
yes, and it's clear like there's like a guy in like, and the guys are just standing in that one, right? They're
That
just,
is my favorite scene. Is when Ray Don Chung is dancing and they scan, they pan across all the guys watching her, and they're all Mexican guys. Everyone has a mustache except for this white
Except
guy
the killer.
who's the killer. Yes. He's like a foot and a half taller than everyone
Mm-hmm.
and does not have a mustache. It's very funny to watch that.
the difference though is the club that Melanie dances in is like this classy, like you said, arena seating, and the guys are just watching like they're watching a theater show. They're watching her strip. It's not like
Very early on, and I thought this was funny, when she's wearing that sequin dress and she turns her back to the audience and takes it down so they just see her butt. These guys are losing their fucking
yeah.
minds. One guy takes off his hat and just starts punching it. Like their eyes, it's like a cartoon wolf. Their eyes should have popped out of their head. Their tongue should have rolled across the table. That was really funny. But you're right. Other than that, it's kind of a classy joint. Blue lighting. The music is better there.
She got dips. I don't know if it's because she's been sleeping with Behringer, but she's got a good gig, I guess.
Yeah, I guess she's one of their most. I mean, at least at that one club, she's the most in demand of the dancers.
Yes.
I mean, they have her picture out.
Oh,
front.
there's a
I think
big
they have
picture,
a
a
cardboard
big cutout.
of
Yeah,
her
there's a
too.
cutout. It's true.
Wow.
Yeah, they mean
It's crazy. So after Tom Berenger saw her with Ray Don Chong, he's like, you know what? Let me give this another shot. So he shows up in her dressing room and she's like, well, you know, I was supposed to meet Ray Don Chong. And he's like, she can find her own way
Yeah,
home.
he literally tells her that.
Subway, possibly.
Now, we know that's going to lead
Yeah.
to bad news.
So he says, let me drive you home. They share
They have
very
awkward
clunky dialogue.
conversation.
It is, you should have talked to me more. I can't find the right words. Sometimes there aren't any right words.
I'm afraid to go to bed with you again. Don't you see?
End of the scene. She gets out the car. She goes, there is no chemistry here. There is nothing between
It's
the
terrible.
two of them.
It's terrible.
It's awful. It is uncomfortable. As you had said earlier for the patrons, you were afraid for her safety when she was on screen.
I was. It made me very uncomfortable for her to see her with him. And I felt she was uncomfortable. I could pick up on those vibes, and I picked them up. Mm-hmm.
I frantically looked for some sort of trivia on IMDb about how she hated this movie or something, because I would not have been surprised to see it, and I was really disappointed when I didn't see anything.
No?
Like that.
Oh. Maybe she
I mean, I
blocked it
didn't see
out.
much trivia. There's not much to say about this movie, but yeah, it just, the two of them, terrible leads, terrible people to put together in a movie. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Mm-mm. And not
So-
romantically together at all. So he drops her off at home, and this is when poor Ray Don Chan has to go home by herself, and she's taking the train home, and she gets cut in the forehead.
This
right
is
across
really
the
gross.
forehead, yeah, and then she's bleeding into her eyes, and she can't see, and he's just like dancing all around her and throwing his legs up in the air, and she's like, I can't see you.
He is doing quote unquote karate moves where he kicks and dances, and every now and then he comes in for a cut. Just one cut here, one cut there. It's really brutal and kind of gross when we see these women being assaulted and killed by this guy. Like, these scenes are shot as you would assume they might be shot in an Abel Ferrara movie, because it is gritty and it's gross. And if the rest of the movie wasn't so stupid and silly, this might be a more intense movie. But these scenes just made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree. And is this when we see the killer then? He's topless. Now we get to see him topless with just giant anatomy posters behind him. And he's just writing in his book.
Yeah, he's like in a big empty loft. Just a big empty loft.
Yep.
With a table, and he's writing in a book and reciting terrible poetry. And you're right, 2 big anatomy posters.
Mm-hmm. Just hanging out there.
On the wall. Yeah. And this is, like you said, this is when we talk to the doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Who tells him that, the killer's avoiding major arteries. He's cutting these people.
He's a smart guy.
Really
yeah.
smart. If you need anything, just let me know.
See, even that, we don't come full on the killer ever.
No.
So we never find out, is he like, maybe his sister is one of these dancers, or maybe he had a medical career, and that's why we don't know any other detail besides he's a karate freak.
Jamie, you just figured it out. Or maybe his brother was the guy that Tom Berenger murdered in a
That's
boxing
what I
ring.
wondered too.
I don't.
But
maybe
you never.
do all of those. Who cares? He went to med school. His brother was killed. His sister's a stripper. Fine, do it all. Just
put
do
that all on
something.
us. Yep, just give it to us, because otherwise we just think we don't know what to think.
Yeah, and also in this movie at this point, I don't know if Ray Don Chong's dead or not. Nobody says it.
No.
We just talked to a doctor. We just heard a doctor talk to Tom Berenger. And I wrote in my notes, is
she okay?
She dead?
Yeah.
And we don't find out for a while.
No. Well, and she's not at first.
No, she's not.
Now, Honey gets more of a scene in the hospital. We don't even get to see Radon in the hospital except when they're trying to revive her and she dies.
No.
So
and who knows? We don't even see her face. That might not be her.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, this is where Billy D gets to say, there's nothing I hate more than guineas and Cadillacs.
Kind of makes me sad when he says that.
That is
makes
that
my
is
little
a
Italian
line.
heart sad.
That
but
is a line that somebody wrote down. And he's
Billy
like,
D
oh,
said
I'm
it.
saying this? All right.
He said it with a passion, too. It kind of broke me a little bit. It did.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Because this Guinea loves her Cadillacs.
Yeah. But he uses like Guinea and WAP and
Dago.
I
uses
think he
them all.
says
Yeah.
Spick at one point too. I'm
Yeah,
like,
he does.
Okay.
Yeah,
Billy
like
D, come on.
dial it down, Billy D. All right.
We get it. Cops are terrible.
Oh, the newspaper clippings.
So,
this is when we get the
oh my
background
God,
of the newspaper.
this is crazy.
clippings.
Okay, so all right, so John F. Kennedy Jr. They're in their office, and he wants to. And I had to pull this phrase out. John Kennedy Jr. wants to perform some private justice on the possible killer.
Mm-hmm.
But Tom Berenger's not into it. He's like, no. You have the strength to pull that trigger. And finally, he's like, all right, I guess not. And then we see him, John F. Kennedy, in a closet.
Yes.
Looking at a scrapbook that I guess he put together.
I love it. The one page is, the headline is Rio in coma. The next page is Rio dies. So we just get a quick summary. Oh, okay, he was in a fight. The guy was in a coma. Oh, okay, and then the guy died. Okay,
the
thanks.
newspapers in this movie, did you see the newspaper with Ray Don Chong's picture on it where it takes up the entire...
Her whole face. Another stripper or another dancer. I love it when the news report says it's another sad day in New York City as another striptease dancer goes down. I'm like, really? Is that a sad day? I mean, not that I'm saying that that's not a hard thing.
It's like, this makes front page news, and not just front page news, but I've never seen a picture in a newspaper take up the entire front page. I assume when JFK Jr.'s father was killed, it wasn't like a big picture, a portrait of JFK on the front of the newspaper.
Picks her whole
but
face.
Ray Don Chong gets that. It's great.
Yeah, she was a beloved dancer at the Hispanic clubs.
Tom Berenger, though, and this is where we find out that there's, I guess, a rival talent agency in town. Because Tom Berenger confronts some random old man where I was
Yeah.
like, who the hell's this guy? He confronts him with a gun. And he's like, are you killing my strippers? Because you have strippers of your own and we're in a competing stripper farming industry. And the guy's like, nope. And Tom Berenger goes, all right. End of that scene.
They meet up
Then
later, though.
throws
Is
the
it?
gun. He throws the gun in
Yeah,
the
he
river.
throws it in
the
the
gun
river.
that he did not use to do any. He never shot this gun ever. Throws it into the river.
Yeah,
Done. He's
it's
unarmed
over.
for the rest of the movie.
He's got his box and he's got his fists of rage that'll take care of business.
Fists of Fury.
I
Yeah.
love it. This is then when we get to see Billy D is really trying to do some good investigative work, and he's trying to get to the bottom of things with his little sleazy, weird partner. And he's like, I'll tell you what this is. What we have here is a city full of suspects.
It's amazing. Again.
Blows the case wide open. Blows it
This
wide
is the
open.
greatest scene because Billy D is acting with somebody, but he's basically acting against nobody.
Yeah.
It's just a one-man show at this point, and he starts talking like he's William Shatner because he's like, "Our assumption all along was that it was Rossi, but what if we were wrong?" Like, oh my God, you are not in the same movie as anyone else right
No,
now.
his
It's
tone
so
is all
intense.
different. Yes.
Oh. It's a theater production. I mean, that's what it really feels like in this scene.
When it's yes. Oh, then the
Melanie
sassy
Griffith-
Latina with her period gets it. She's the next one to go.
Wait, excuse me? Wait, who is this? Sorry, I thought Melanie Griffith and Tom Berenger were about to have sex.
Oh yes, because that's when
That's
he gives
fine.
her the birthday gift.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So he gives her a chintzy little bracelet, and it's the greatest thing anyone's ever done for her. And
Yes.
she takes him back to her place where she walks out in, I guess, a t-shirt and nothing else. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Yeah, it's like a tank top. Yeah.
It is so great when she's like, "Oh, you found my whiskey."
Yeah.
He's just drinking it out
Just
of the
right
bottle
out of the
on
bottle.
couch. He looks like Al Bundy sitting
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
there. It's so gross.
And then apparently you saw an unedited cut where
So if you watch this on Tubi,
Mm-hmm.
Tubi, or Tubby, I think it's Tubi.
okay.
They have an uncut version and a R-rated version. So of course I was like,
You went for
uncut
the
version,
uncut, sure.
boobs galore. Let's go. That is not what the uncut version is. It's just cut scenes of unnecessary nonsense. So when she's sitting like straddling him on the couch, they kiss for a little bit, and then it's like almost a POV shot from his point of view, and there's just a pen, and she's like biting on it. Just like goes into her mouth, and she's licking it, and then it switches back to this great high definition image, and there's no pen anymore. That was just nonsense that
what
was
in
cut
the
out.
world?
It is so weird.
Poor Melanie Griffith had to do this movie back in the day.
And we also, when Billy D takes him into the police dungeon to interrogate him,
Oh, his interrogation scene. That one's intense too. The
that's an
lighting.
extended scene of him really beating him up a lot.
Oh,
And all that was cut out.
bummer.
He
I would
hits
have
him.
liked it.
He hits him, and the chair falls over, and he has to pull him back up.
Oh,
He tells the other guy to lock the door, and he keeps punching him.
None
Yeah.
of that. None of that do we
Yeah.
see.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, the unedited version does sound a little. Well, I don't want to watch any more of this movie than I have to.
And we get more lesbian kissing and lesbian coffee talk.
Well, there you have it.
That's really those. Honestly, those are the only three things I really noticed.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. We do get a little flashback given to us of Maddie as a little boy shining shoes and
Oh my
watching some
God.
gangsters get killed. I guess that's to let us know that he's always been involved with these gangsters. Well, because the one gangster that shoots up the other gangsters, we realize is one of the gangsters that he works with now. So, since
I
he
love
was
how
a kid.
after they murder these guys and they shoot them up, one guy leans out of the car and goes, "Silencio."
Yeah.
Just drive away. That's it. Yeah, because every now and then, like some mob boss calls Tom Berenger every now and then and is like, we'll take care of the situation. Don't worry about that. And later on, he goes to meet him, and I'm like, well, what is this about? who cares? I don't care
You
about
didn't need
this.
to involve all that, especially if you're going to do it so sloppy like you did. Unless it was just so that you can have Billy D talk about wops and guineas and
Oh,
Cadillacs.
yeah, definitely. So, Melanie Griffith goes to visit Radon Chung finally at the hospital. I don't know how long she's been in there, but finally,
Yeah.
Melanie Griffith is like, oh, I'm going to get up the courage to go visit her. It's going to be great.
She's got her little notebook with her, and yeah.
As we said earlier, she just watches her die. Just watches her go into cardiac arrest. The doctors try to revive her. The one doctor's like, nah, whatever, don't worry about it, or whatever he says.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Done. She watches all this from in the room, and this just pushes her over the edge. There's one throwaway line at the beginning where Tom Berenger asks her if she's been clean.
Oh yeah, when they're in the
And
car
she's like,
together.
oh,
yeah.
yeah, I am.
But
All right.
not when you watch your bestie lover die. You're not gonna be clean. So Julio or Juan, or she's got a dealer who's very not nice to her, but very. He seems like he's an exotic dancer himself, and maybe a different kind of it. The girls now, the other dancers, are starting to not want to go out and dance because
Right, yes.
it's getting a little dangerous for them. There's been a number of them, and now that another one has died, they're starting to refuse the work. And so the one annoying club owner is shouting all the time, I don't have any money and I can't pay
This
my
is
bills.
terrible.
No
It's
one's
just
here.
awful.
He's got a sad dancer that's dancing for him and people are booing her.
I felt so bad for that poor woman. People,
Oh
what
yeah,
did
the
she
one that
do?
was riding the pony or whatever.
she was like
Yeah.
she was like a stick, like one of those horse ponies, and she's wearing chaps. She's got a hat on, and she's dancing all around, and people are booing.
Yeah.
And the guy who owns the club is up in the thing. I think he says like, "She's so ugly, I want to kill myself." I'm like, this is terrible.
It's terrible. Yeah, no, it's terrible.
And I think in this whole movie we're supposed to be like, oh, these poor strip club owners. I hope they can turn their businesses around.
Right?
Like, I think as an audience, that's what we're supposed to be rooting for.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
Oh, we do get to see the karate killer do a naked dance.
Some nude martial arts. This is where we see that his book that he's writing is called Fear City.
Yes.
Now we go to a strip club where JFK Jr. is there, and he sees a big guy with a knife. It's an
Oh.
extensive bathroom scene.
This is when he goes to the bathroom. So he goes to one of the strip clubs and he orders himself a drink, and then he goes in the bathroom because now they're all very nervous. There's been some meeting that happened with some mob guys where they want to try to all keep their dancers safe. And so they're deciding that they're going to take a little more of an active hand in keeping them safe, beefing up security at the strip clubs and making sure that they're in there too, getting an eye on things. So JFK Jr. goes, and they see a guy that kind of looks suspicious. So JFK follows him to the bathroom, or maybe just sees him in the bathroom.
He sees him in the bathroom because he's in there peeing for 20 minutes.
But nothing comes out. There's not even a fake pee. He's just standing by the
he
urinal.
doesn't even make the sound with his mouth or
No,
anything.
no,
Like,
nothing.
He stands there and stares at this guy while he does a whole like hair combing, hand washing ritual.
But the guy has like a razor or something in his pocket.
He sees a razor in his pocket, and so he talks to the hilarious strip club owner. This is not the total creep. This is the guy who's actually kind of funny. So they devise a plan where the one stripper, they're like, get this guy to go in the kitchen with him.
Yeah.
We don't care how. And they like sneak attack him. Like it's like a surprise. We're here. And they beat him up and call him a pervert. It is so strange. Tom Berenger, for no reason, shows up there.
And he's
just
like the Hulk at first. He comes in because they're like, we got him. This is the guy. And he goes into that mode where he doesn't even care. He's just punching machine. And then they go, wait, he's not the guy. He's not the guy.
As Tom Berenger beats this guy almost to death, JFK Jr. rifles through his wallet and is like, oh, no, this guy's from Chicago.
Just got here yesterday or this morning.
He's an
He's not
architect
killing
from
anybody,
Chicago.
yeah.
What? Why? What is happening in this stupid movie? And later on, we find out that Tom Berenger has a sketch of the possible killer. And I'm like, did you have that when you assaulted this
But
guy?
he has
Does
like
not
a
look
sketch
anything
like they had in the Wild West days. Like it's like this crazy wanted
like a
poster.
wanted poster.
Yes.
It's brown.
It's rolled up and a little burnt on the edges.
Why does he rent a hotel room to work out in? What is this?
What is the montage? We get a montage of Berenger working out and the killer working out side by side. They're both getting ready for
It's
just.
so terrible. Can I just point out one character who I absolutely loved at this point in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
This Asian dishwasher with a blonde mullet who's working.
He's in it for
place.
like all of a minute, but yeah.
This kid looks so silly. And even later, he's in it again later because they come back to the club later and the owner's like, there's nobody out there. I don't even know why I'm hiring this kid to wash dishes. There's no dishes. And we see this kid with, I swear it's got to be a wig. He looks like he should be in that Decline of Western Civilization movie.
Yes.
The documentary.
Talking about how much he loves poison or something like
He's
that. Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah. We hear that Cindy's dead, whoever Cindy is, not sure. And that's the last
That's the
straw for Tom
girl.
Berenger.
What's her name? Right?
Who's Cindy?
Oh,
Who?
Cindy might be the period girl. The Mexican or the spicy Latino's the one that was like, I didn't take off my G-string because I had my period. And they're like, how are you dancing with your period? Which I kind of love.
So that's Cindy? She doesn't look like a Cindy to me.
I don't know if that's Cindy. Cindy might be the lesbian. Might be Ray Don Chong. Maybe that's why he's over the edge.
Oh my God, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then he wrecks up the office for no reason.
He starts punching his boxing posters.
Ripping the pictures off the wall.
Uh-huh.
Later we see that he didn't clean it up and some elderly man has to do it.
Yeah, the
but
man
this
is not
is
getting
when
paid.
we get
P.S. Melanie Griffith is just high.
For long stretches of this movie, we just every now and then cut back to a Melanie Griffith high as a kite. She's either sleeping, writhing around the floor, desperately calling him on the phone. Her character is pushed so far to the background. It's amazing that she shows up at the end. And this is when we do get a hilarious slow motion of him going, "Why didn't you stop the fight?" And it continues
Even
on.
his friend
we hear
goes,
other characters.
back it up.
Why competent director Abel Ferrara thought this was a good idea is beyond me. It's so dumb. As I said, the elderly assistant's cleaning up the office, and he tells JFK Jr. that he doesn't have to pay him for the week. And I was like, are we supposed to feel bad for any of these characters in this movie? Billy D raids this club.
Yeah.
Because apparently the guy from Chicago possibly pressed charges.
So now he's got a reason to be there. So
Right.
That's when he gets Berenger and he decides to interrogate him. And you see the extended scene where he beats him up. I did not. But in the meantime, when Billy D gets Berenger and does the interrogation, JFK Jr. has now been, somehow something happened to him. He's in the hospital.
Well, Ruby, JFK Jr.'s wife, girlfriend, who knows? She's trying to make a call from a payphone, and this killer just pulls her out of the payphone.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same moment, JFK Jr. pulls up and jumps out of the car, tries to fight him, but gets kicked once, and he's down for the count.
He's hospitalized.
He is hospitalized. And the doctors even like...
We're just going to pray. All we can do right now is pray.
But the things he says earlier, we did a lot of stuff that we thought would, like stop the internal bleeding. All we can do now is pray. And I'm like, that's a horrible diagnosis.
It's very good medical advice. Yeah.
If you go into a doctor with a problem, you do not want to hear that doctor go, well, you know what? I think we should just pray about this.
Yeah.
See how it all turns out. That's terrible.
This is our doctor.
And, this is another cutscene. And I don't know, I mean, possibly this was Tom Berenger saying, cut this out. He goes over to his brother / JFK Jr., whoever this guy is, and he holds his hand and sobs like uncontrollably next to his bed.
I didn't see that.
And then the scene ends, but all that was cut out. And I was like, why would you cut that out? It makes him seem like a human.
Yeah, exactly.
He sits down with a mob boss forever.
And they eat what looks like liverwurst. It's gross.
It looks disgusting. Because this mob boss is acting like an old Italian mother. Because he's like, you must eat. Hey, you looking like a skin and bones.
Never say
come
no
on.
to the food, huh? We're going to plan about how we're going to kill this killer guy.
It is, and it's such a long, and his fake Italian accent is so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have this on with subtitles, but I did.
It's hard to understand him, I agree.
I didn't understand most of what he was saying.
Yeah.
And this scene goes on for so long.
Stupid long. Yeah, like several different waiters come by and fill up drinks and everything.
He's thanking people constantly. And I'm like, these are just extras. What are we doing right now?
Let's just
At
move
the
on.
very end, I did notice he goes, you must have learned this man and you must have respect him. Can you do this?
Look
Tom
at me in my
Berenger says
eyes. Can you
Yes,
do this?
Look at, he grabs his face. He's like, look at me. It's so dumb. Then he goes to confession. It's
next
just
thing
Tom
we know, we're
Berenger
at church.
wandering
Yeah.
around. Then he rents a room, and like you said, there's a montage where he's training like he's a boxer.
Well, now
again.
I think he knows. And it's so funny because Melanie Griffith hasn't been injured. We don't know who this guy is or what the vendetta is against him, but all of a sudden Berenger's decided that he's going to kill. That he's going to go back to being that killing machine, and that's what he's going to do. Because maybe that's what the Italian guy said to him. I don't know. I couldn't understand him. So
with a sketch of a lanky white dude in New York. Do you know how many lanky white dudes were in New York City in the mid 80s? He could have murdered all of the Beastie Boys.
Well, that's
all
what,
three of them.
That's true. Well, that's why Billy D says it earlier when he's doing an investigation. Everyone in the city it's a city full of suspects, and indeed it is. If that's
They
what
should
the
have
look
called
is.
this movie Suspect City.
Yeah, because really the only ones that are afraid are the dancers. No one else
Right,
is living in
exactly.
fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's gone, and for some reason, from a park, because we see another woman murdered in a park with nunchucks. Which is
She's walking her dog. The lady
Yes.
that's walking her Doberman.
Yeah, and I'm like, how'd you know this woman was a stripper? She just seems to be an innocent lady.
Yeah.
But Tom Berenger, for whatever reason, possibly to harass Melanie Griffith, calls her to like taunt her just by saying "I love you," and she's a mess.
And she's a hot mess. Then after the phone call, she goes back to see her drug dealer friend who won't give her any money or any
Hold on,
drugs.
his name is hold on. I wrote it down. Jorge.
Jorge.
His name's Jorge.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jorge, you know I'm good for it.
She leaves the apartment for the first time in, I think, since this movie started.
Yeah.
And we see that she's being tailed by the murderer.
She's going to be the next
When
one.
she left her apartment, this shot, the angle, the time of evening, I wanted Sly Stallone to walk by in a fur coat.
You did.
I
You did.
wanted him to walk toward the camera in a fur coat and be like, these movies are taking place simultaneously. They live in the same building.
Fair City Nighthawk! Yay! It's awesome. Let's see. So she is being followed by the killer. She goes back to the strip club for a minute. Is it? What's the Rosa? What's the wife's name? Doesn't she give her
Ruby?
$10? Ruby.
Yes. Yeah,
Ruby gives her
$10,
$10,
yeah.
which she says go get a cab and go home. Well, she's not getting a cab and going home at all. She goes to her drug dealer Jorge, who she sees hanging from a fire escape. Literally, he's hung and dead. And then the killer comes up behind her, stabs her in the back of the thigh, like in the tush area.
Yeah.
And
She fights him slightly.
she has
but then
mace.
She falls down every 4 feet. It's the clumsiest getaway you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then Tom Berenger's there.
Oh, he's just at the end of
He's just there.
Yeah, at the end of the alleyway. He just knew where to be.
Do you think he rented an apartment or a room near the drug dealer's place so he could like look out? Like, don't we need a scene of that? Of him like looking out the window and being like,
I
that's
don't know why the guy
Jorge's
does
spot.
anything.
I don't know, but he's just there.
Now there's a struggle and a fight, and there's boxing flashbacks where we're back in the ring again, and I think that's all the notes.
I mean, that's it. It's the end. He
Well,
beats
no,
him
we
to
do
death.
get a
I mean,
little
he
one more
really-
Billy D. Williams,
Right.
right? Yeah.
He beats him to death. Billy D shows up just in time to not do anything. And like I said before, he says, "You think you're a hero? Maybe you are." And that's it.
That's
And
it.
then the closing song, I loved it and hated it too because it sounds like someone who's trying to be both like David Bowie and Glenn Danzig, which sounds
yeah.
like it could be fun. It's so terrible. It is an awful song at the end of this movie. And I hated it. I hated this movie so much.
Yeah.
I hated it start to finish. Billy D would pop up every now and then to make it somewhat tolerable. But as I said, at the end of this, I didn't care. I barely could pay attention.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It was stupid. It was not an enjoyable movie.
No.
Yeah. 2 thumbs
right.
down. Do you have a
2
recommendation?
thumbs down. Oh, Jamie, I'm going to take a page out of your recommendation book.
Oh my God, a yoga video?
Well, hold on. I'm going to recommend a podcast.
Oh, yay!
I'm going to recommend a podcast that I only listened to about 30 seconds of, but
Even better.
in doing a little bit of research on the people in this movie, the woman who played Ruby
Has a podcast?
has a podcast.
Excellent.
Her name is Janet Lansbury. She acted in the 80s and 90s, and in 95 she became a teacher.
Oh.
And now she has a podcast, a parenting podcast called Unruffled. And I listened to a little bit of one, and it actually seemed to be pretty good parenting advice.
Well, look at that. That's
So
excellent.
that is my recommendation.
That's
yes.
a really good recommendation.
Also, those Abel Ferrara movies I mentioned earlier are good,
yeah.
unlike this one.
You will recommend them, not
Yeah.
this. Okay.
What about you?
I would say if you want to see a good, I just watched, if you want to see a redeemable movie about the mafia and the Italians, and I watched The Irishman on Netflix. It's excellent. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it.
It is very good.
It's very
It
long,
was very
it's-
long.
But it's really great performances. Little awkward makeup stuff that they do there
Wow.
with De Niro.
A
But
little bit. When Joe Pesci is referring to De Niro as a kid at the beginning of
Yeah.
this, I was like, how am I going to laugh my way through this?
Yeah.
But
Some
thankfully
of
that
the-
didn't go on too
no,
long.
and then the movie again, the story and the acting and everything is so great that you do forget that. But there are moments, especially in the beginning, I would say the first hour, where I'm like, are we supposed to believe that he's young? Because and then they do weird. I don't know if it's CG. I don't know what they do, but they make his
like
body look
de-age.
thin. Yeah,
It is so weird. Yeah.
and it's just a little. But again, the movie is, I thought, really great.
It's
and really
great.
Well, and I mean, the actors in it couldn't not be. No, but I
All
would
right,
say
great
that is
choice.
much
Yeah.
better than what
Well,
we had to just endure.
I think there's a lot that's much better. And what I'm hoping is to round out Billy December. This will be our third movie in a row because I do like to count Nighthawks as a Billy D
Yeah,
movie.
definitely was.
You know, a little. We are going to watch Number One with a Bullet.
I can only hope it's a little better, but I don't know, Billy
I
D.
hope it's better, but now I'm very scared.
Me too.
Like,
I'm nervous.
don't-
I'm very nervous myself.
And as I said last time, it's tough to find movies that he's a star in because there aren't any. So he's always second billed.
Yeah.
He was second billed in this, but I'm really thinking it's probably only because of what he became.
Because how fluid he is.
Yeah, I'm assuming. Right. I'm assuming at the time he was probably not second billed in this movie. You got Tom Berenger, you got Melanie Griffith, you got whatever Scalia. He was probably as big as Billy D at the time. I don't know, but anyway, it was deceiving, and I'm hoping Number One with a Bullet isn't.
Well,
So,
we'll see.
So everybody, tune in.
From
Tune in 2 weeks from now, where we close out December. We
Okay.
end our December run.
we descend into December.
We
How
descend
about that?
out of December
Out
or
of December.
into the
yeah.
end of
into
December.
Yeah.
And also, please, please, please check out our Patreon page,
Yeah, do it.
patreon.com/Good Times Great Movies. Got Garfield coming up.
city full of suspects.
Should I go?
So I guess-
So
Is that your Googling?